The movie starts with a character named Lee Juk-hyo, a respected national poet who is in his 70s. He lives alone in an isolated house. He is a lonely old man, so he reads books to help him with his loneliness. Basically, he buries himself in books. On the other side, his assistant Seo Ji-woo has recently published his first novel, described as a genre novel with psychological insight. On one casual day, Ji-woo and Lee Juk-hyo were returning from Jae-woo's book press meeting when they found a stranger asleep on Lee Juk-hyo's porch. A 17-year-old high school girl named Han Eun-gyo is looking for a part-time job while Jae-woo is interrogating her, and Juk-hyo is mesmerized by her beauty. Later that day, while Juk-hyo and Jae-woo are celebrating the success of Jae-woo's first novel with a small party in Juk-hyo's house, Jae-woo reveals that he is not going to be around for some time, so he has arranged for someone to look after him, and that person is Eun-gyo. The next day, Eun-gyo comes to work at Juk-hyo's house, and they didn't seem to get along with each other, but as the days passed, they slowly got closer day by day, and the relationship between Eun-gyo and Juk-hyo started to grow. Juk-hyo starts to develop feelings for her, the 17-year-old girl who helps him rediscovering himself, makes him feel alive for the first time in a long time. He feels love and lust, the senses that have been lost for so many years. At the same time, the girl tries to impress Juk-hyo by trimming her skirt so short. Eun-gyo began to develop feelings for him. On one rainy night, while Juk-hyo was sleeping, he heard someone knocking on the door and found Eun-gyo standing completely drenched in the rain. Juk-hyo lets her in. While she was cleaning up the mess, Juk-hyo noticed something on her cheek. It was a bruise caused by her abusive mother. That is why Eun-gyo decided to spend the night at Juk-hyo's house. Juk-hyo gave her his shirt and dried her school uniform. Juk-hyo shows her an extra bed, and he goes back to sleep. In the morning, Juk-hyo feels that something is wrapped around his waist, and later he finds out that it was Eun-gyo. While he's thinking about how she got there, he notices a tattoo on her chest. Juk-hyo hears Jae-woo's car approaching, and immediately he gets up and runs away from his bedroom to his study room to avoid any misunderstanding. Jae-woo comes into the house. Jae-woo sees a girl's school uniform hung in the closet, and suddenly Eun-gyo comes out of Juk-hyo's room. Jae-woo is shocked when he sees Eun-gyo in his bedroom. Jae-woo asks her about her clothes, and his confusion is now at its peak. Eun-gyo prepares breakfast for the two, and Jae-woo tells her that Juk-hyo doesn't eat bread, but she does not listen to him. She gives the food to Juk-hyo and asks him to eat it. Juk-hyo happily eats it. While they were getting ready to go out, Juk-hyo asked Eun-gyo about her tattoo on her chest, and she told him it was just henna. Jae-woo follows Eun-gyo outside and asks her to stop coming to the house. Eun-gyo tells him that Juk-hyo gave her the gate keys. Eun-gyo sits on a rock and looks at herself in a mirror. Jae-woo pushes Eun-gyo, and she drops her mirror. Eun-gyo started crying and saying that it was her first gift from her mother for her birthday. Juk-hyo observes the chaos and descends the cliff, picking up the mirror, which he returns to her, making her embrace him tightly while Jae-woo is watching. Later that afternoon, Eun-gyo runs to Juk-hyo's home to tell him that she'll give him henna, though he tries to refuse it at first. He gives in to Eun-gyo's persuasions, and the two head inside his house. Juk-hyo nervously lies on Eun-gyo's lap as she starts putting the henna on him. When she tells him to close his eyes, Juk-hyo soon starts zooming out and imagining himself with Eun-gyo. In his imagination, he is moving closer to her and gently hugs her from behind her back, but she runs away, standing up. Juk-hyo stares at his reflection from the window and is stunned to see a younger version of himself. He can't believe himself, and then he runs after Eun-gyo, smiling while chasing after her. The two then head back to the house slowly. They are getting into an intimate moment, smiling the whole time. Unfortunately, his dream comes to an end when Eun-gyo wakes him up excitedly to show him his new tattoo. Later, Lee is in his study room passionately writing a poem about Eun-gyo as he imagines the two of them together. Jae would try to write a poem at home, but he ended up deleting it. He then calls Eun-gyo, asking her to buy him some medicine, but when she arrives, Jae starts screaming at her, demanding to know what she's doing to Juk-hyo and telling her that he's a noble person. Confused and angry, Eun-gyo asks him what she did wrong before cursing him and snapping at him. Jaiwoo grabs Eun-gyo, pulling at her blouse, and blames her for the way Jukyo had risked himself just to get her to stop crying. When he demands to know what's so special about it, Eun-gyo stresses that it was a gift from her mother, and Jaiwoo rudely asks if she thinks it's filled with her love. Though he's still furious, he notices blood coming from Eun-gyo's chest. This calms him down, and he goes to get some napkins for her. Eun-gyo mentions that she forgot that Jaiwoo was an engineering major who took 10 years to realize that not all stars are the same. Jaiwoo was surprised by her, and he recalls the day he met Jukyo in his class during his discussion about stars. Then Eun-gyo borrows a book from him, a book called The Heart written by Jaiwoo. The next day, while Eun-gyo is cleaning the study room, Jaiwoo walks in and notices her cleaning. Jaiwoo then asks her if she read the book. Eun-gyo says that she hasn't because she's busy with her exam, so she couldn't read it. When Eun-gyo and Jaiwoo started moving Jukyo's table, Jaiwoo quickly stops her, but she insists on moving it. Jaiwoo stops her and tells her that it has been there for a long time, but Eun-gyo tries to move it, and as a result, they both push each other off, knocking the table over. Eun-gyo escapes from him and rushes to tell this to Jukyo in the room. At that time, Jaiwoo finds Jukyo's poem for Eun-gyo. When Eun-gyo and Jukyo arrive in the room, Jukyo tells Eun-gyo to let the table be there and express his feelings about it. Eun-gyo was disappointed. Jaiwoo then gives Jukyo his schedule, mentioning that he is going to a restaurant to meet with the literary museum officials on Monday. Eun-gyo asks Jukyo if she can come with him. Jaiwoo does not want her to accompany him. He objects, but Jukyo allows her to accompany him. Eun-gyo declares that she read the heart they talk about in Jaiwoo's book for a while on Monday. Jukyo finished the dinner with a literary museum official. Jukyo gets up to leave. Officials ask him, "Why are you hurrying?" Answers by showing the henna Eun-gyo drew on him and then left the place. At the bus stop, Jukyo picked up Eun-gyo, and they then drove off to a restaurant to eat. The two joked around and enjoyed their time together. Meanwhile, Jiwoo was in his study room reading the poem Jukyo wrote for Eun-gyo. After reading it, he leaned back and sighed heavily as he closed his eyes. Then he returned the poem to Jukyo's table, gently closing it before he opened it again. Jaiwoo angrily stares at Eun-gyo's name again. He takes it and slams it shut. Later that night, Jukyo was working on his car when Mr. Park suddenly arrived. He tells him about naming the museum and displaying Jukyo's manuscript there. Jukyo agrees to this before he and Mr. Park talk about Jaiwoo's success as a writer. Mr. Park then tells him about Jaiwoo's latest short story. When Jukyo asks what the title is, he tells him that it's Eun-gyo. Jukyo was shocked after hearing this, and immediately he rushed to his study room and looked for his poem about Eun-gyo. When he found it on his table, Jukyo drove to a bookstore where he found Jaiwoo's short story. He held the book as he stared at it in shock. The next day, Jaiwoo met Jukyo inside his house. Jaiwoo makes a cup of tea for Lee, but he refuses it, saying that Jaiwoo might have poisoned it, and he leaves the place. Jaiwoo then notices his short storybook on Jukyo's table. Jukyo then confronts Jaiwoo about what he did. Jaiwoo tries to reason that he couldn't just let Jukyo's poem waste away at his table. He had to let the world know about it. Jukyo then gets angry and calls Jaiwoo a thief, but Jaiwoo will retort that Jukyo was the one who made him the way he is. When Jukyo secretly agrees to ghostwrite the heart for him, then you'll be sorry when it becomes a bestseller. Jukyo claims that you may have no talent, but you kept me company, so I wrote it for you as a gift. Now Jaiwoo is going on a tirade about how he doesn't know who he is anymore, if it's himself or Jukyo's mask. Jukyo tries to stop him, but Jaiwoo remains deep in his emotions. Then Jaiwoo tells Jukyo that he can't publish it because his relationship with Eun-gyo would be scandalous. Finally, Jukyo bursts out in anger, grabbing Jaiwoo and berating him over how worthless he is, calling him a thief. Jukyo then hits him in the head with his slippers, threatening him continuously and cursing at him. Eun-gyo runs away after seeing that situation. Later that night, Eun-gyo returns to Jukyo's house. She tries to enter through the front door, but it's locked. Jukyo won't let her in. She begs for him to open, but he doesn't. She then finds Jaiwo's book on the table and leaves with it. The next day, Eun-gyo meets Jaiwoo at his house. Jaiwoo asks Eun-gyo if she has read it, but she only scolds him for stealing the story. Jaiwoo apologizes for that, and Eun-gyo asks how he found out about Jukyo's henna. He tells her that he told him about it. Eun-gyo isn't satisfied, scolding him again for no keeping secrets. Jaiwoo then tells her that Lee is a father figure to him and that he trusts him with everything. After this, the two go to car and continue talk. Suddenly, Jaiwoo starts kissing her, but when she asks him why he's doing this, he stops, and Jaiwoo then admits that he is lonely and pulls away, leaning back in his seat, disgusted. Eun-gyo looks at him before leaving the car to head home. After that, Jaiwoo meets Mr. Park at the restaurant, and they are waiting for the announcement of the annual literary award winner. Mr. Park's phone started ringing while they were talking, and he answered it with joy, telling Jaiwoo that he had won the award for his story on Eun-gyo. Jaiwoo doesn't believe it at first, and he eventually smiles, still in disbelief. The next day, Jaiwoo is waiting for the awards ceremony to begin, and Mr. Park informs him that Jukyo is here to attend the ceremony. After Jaiwoo receives the award, they call Jukyo to the stage for a speech about Jiwoo's award. In his congratulatory speech, he says that just as your youth is not a prize for your efforts, my old age is not a punishment for my faults. He then proceeds to describe the short story, Eun-gyo, while reminiscing about Eun-gyo. Later, while Jukyo is cutting some seaweed strips, suddenly Eun-gyo arrives and wishes him a happy birthday. She even bought him a cake and a present, though Jukyo is just staring at her sadly through the window. Eun-gyo tells him that his windows are dirty. She then notices that Jukyo is unhappy to see her, but he tells her that he is glad she came. After he opens the door for her, she happily walks in. Later, while Jukyo is outside cooking and Eun-gyo is preparing his cake, Eun-gyo notices Jaiwoo. Jaiwoo comes, greets Jukyo, and gives him a gift. Before he leaves, Jukyo asks him to join them for dinner. Inside, the two sit awkwardly together while Eun-gyo prepares the food. She then asks Jukyo about the history of wine, and Jukyo answers her. Jaiwoo asks why she doesn't ask him any questions, but Eun-gyo laughs it off, telling him that he doesn't have good answers and that he's too loose, like all engineering majors are. Then Jaiwoo gets drunk and starts bragging about his success, saying that he is no longer a follower, but a respected writer. Jukyo leaves the room. Eun-gyo follows him. Before leaving, Jukyo hugs her, then Eun-gyo kisses him on the forehead, and he goes to sleep. However, Eun-gyo walks back inside and sneaks into Jukyo's study room. In the middle of the night, Jukyo gets up and goes down to the basement, seeing Eun-gyo's shoes. Then he goes to his study room where he finds Eun-gyo and Jaiwoo laughing with each other. He then moves outside to spy on them from a window and catches a glimpse of them kissing. And then he finds another window where he can clearly see what is happening. He grabs a ladder and puts it under the window, and after climbing up, Jukyo is in disbelief when he sees Eun-gyo and Jaiwoo hooking up. With this shock, Jukyo climbs down from the ladder, leaving the two to finish with their business. Lee then sits in his car, saddened by what he has just witnessed. He waits for Eun-gyo to leave, and then he slashes Jaiwoo's tire and works in his car. The next day, Jaiwoo will rush to his car and finds that one of his tires is flat. He then borrows Jukyo's truck, making Lee jump from the bed when he hears the engine start. On the road, Jaiwoo is driving, and then he suddenly loses control of the steering wheel, making the truck crash. After that, he heads to the mechanic to have it fixed in the repair shop. The mechanic tells him that the steering has been intentionally loosened, and Jaiwoo thinks that whoever did it had intent to kill him. With a look of realization on his face, he drives angrily back to Jukyo's house while Jukyo burns his writings. As Jaiwoo drives angrily, he gets into another accident. This time he falls off a cliff. Jukyo calls Eun-gyo, telling her that he killed Jaiwoo. When she is coming from the school, she watches the police take out Jaiwoo's car, which is all smashed. After some time, Eun-gyo goes to the library and picks up Jiwoo's book. She reads it again and realizes something. Later, Eun-gyo goes to see Jukyo. She finds him asleep, not moving. His place was smelling like liquor. Eun-gyo starts talking to him, stammering. At first, she lies down next to him, telling him that some things can never be felt no matter how hard you try, and that a third person can never describe how they felt. At that moment, just as an engineer who thinks all stars are the same can never write something as beautiful as Eun-gyo. She cries and leaves a bouquet for him, thanking him for making her so beautiful in the story, and she leaves. After Eun-gyo closes the door, Jukyo's eyes are filled with tears as he bids Eun-gyo goodbye for the final time.